Something really bad happened in Ukraine today, and no, we're not talking about Russia's invasion and war inside of Ukraine, but something else, something that happened in Parliament, where earlier today, the Ukrainian Parliament passed a bill which could weaken the anti-corruption institutions that have been in place since 2014 to get rid of corruption inside of Ukraine. And if this thing moves forward, it could, unfold and create a lot of corruption in which Zelensky over the past now 5 years have been trying to stop, and we have to talk about. For those who don't know, let's be honest, going all the way back to Yanukovych. He and years prior to that, there was a lot of corruption. When new countries are formed and governments are not really fully built, there tends to be money missing and things going wrong. Under Zelensky and eventually down the line, Poroshenko, aka the chocolate president, there was a lot of change, moving towards getting rid of the Soviet Union Russian corruption mindset and more towards an independent country in which any kind of corruption whatsoever, it's not tolerated, and we're getting rid of that. So since 2014, we saw two major branches be formed inside the government to keep an eye on corruption and to crack down. The first one is the NABU, or the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, and the second one is the SAPO, or the Special Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. You see, under Zelensky and Chocolate Man, we saw a lot of movement towards we're done with corruption and we're not only going to prosecute you, we're going to do it publicly. That way, that not only does it teach you a lesson to never do this again, it will also go after other people so that they also know that you're not doing this inside of Ukraine. And so today, a new law passed inside the parliament, which would have control over anti-corruption investigations, shifting from essentially what is the board that was there, those two boards, to a prosecutor general. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, why is that such a big deal? A lot of it has to deal with the fact that the prosecutor general is seen as a politically influenced position, in which if you've got one person that could sway something, then yeah, corruption could get in, versus having two different institutions, boards of people come together to agree on things and vote on things to make sure that there are multiple layers set in place so that corruption doesn't happen. And so right now, even as there's threats of drones and things going on, Ukrainians are taking to streets with different kind of banners saying, don't push the cringe, we don't want corruption, Zelensky, vote the right way, or even the biggest one out there, which is veto the law. Because as the president of Ukraine, he does have the power to go to parliament and say, no, what you're doing here doesn't make sense, so I am saying no.
So we're standing here because Ukrainian parliament has just passed a bill that requires that the independent anti-corruption services must be compliant exclusively to the General Prosecutor's Office, which eventually contradicts with the agreements that we have with EU in regards to the anti-corruption policies that we'll have in our country. This is purely a farce bill that has been passed in order to help the people that were in the office that were manipulating with the corruption schemes that eventually harmed our armed forces, that helped the Russians, because considering that there has been less and less money going into the army because of the corruption schemes, there's been more and more casualties, and we want this to stop. We want to have the services that are independent, that eventually can review the corruption schemes that were done by the central government. And because we want it to be extremely fair to the citizens, we want it to be extremely fair to the partners that help us a lot, so we are protesting against that.
And there is more to the story, with a lot of things still kind of being fuzzy. According to the NABU, on Tuesday, they accused a senior official from the SBU, or the Security Service of Ukraine, of demanding a $300,000 bribe from a person to destroying evidence on the case related to the illegal smuggling of conscripts abroad. And this came a day after the SBU raided the NABU and SAPO's offices, where they accused the NABU official of having Russian ties, which is why they went through the office. And there are accusations out there that the SBU even forcefully opened the eyes of one of these officials so they can unlock their phone to get information inside of it. This, my friends, right now is a breaking news story. There's a lot of questions right now, and that's why when Ukrainians are hearing this on the street, they're saying we don't want to go back to the pre-2014 ways. And Zelensky, at this very moment, could go ahead and just veto this entire bill, and it goes away. But there's also other people on the other side that states, well, if there really are people on those boards who are potentially working for Russia, then yes, we do need to weed them out. So we're at this weird crossroads of which way is it going to go? Which way is the right way? Bottom line is that I still think that these boards should exist, but there should definitely be a shakeup, which we have seen Zelensky do in the past few weeks, including the Prime Minister, in which now Yulia is in charge, and we're seeing a lot of changes. But that being said, for the first time since Russia started their war in Ukraine, we're seeing protests against the government. This is something big, and something I will be sure to keep an eye on with you, for you. So please do share my YouTube videos and my TikToks. This is one of these stories in which I'm sure over the next few days we'll get more clarity. So as soon as we get new information, I'll be sure to let you know. So please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. I also have a Substack in which I'm going to have to break this down, just because there's a lot that's coming through, and there's, once again, a lot of fuzz. I'm not really quite sure where we're at this very moment. So if you want to sign up for my free Substack newsletter, in which we send out almost every single day, the link to that is in the bio of this video. And once again, I want to thank you for joining me. Please subscribe, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. Stay safe.